I know you wrote an article about Darius Garland kind of committed to bouncing back after what was a tough year for him. Take us through that.
He just went through so much last year, Dave, and I just don't think people have a full understanding of everything that Darius dealt with. And he was bad. And I think Darius would be the first one to admit that he did not have the season that he wanted to have. I sat down with him last year before the season even started, and I asked him what he felt like he needed to do to take the next step in his career and become a different caliber point guard. And he turned it around on me and he said, like, what don't I do that the other superstar players do? And I gave my feedback to him, and he said, okay, that's the category that I want to get into. So he had big goals for himself and big goals for this team last year, and he didn't get to reach those. And in many aspects, um, last season for Darius, by his own standards, was a disappointment. It wasn't a failure because the Cavs did take the steps that they wanted to take and they advanced out of the first round of the playoffs. They got to the Eastern Conference semifinals. But from an individual standpoint, like Darius was nowhere near the all-star player that he was a couple of years ago. He was nowhere near the conversation of taking that next step um, and jumping into that superstar stratosphere that he wanted to be in. So he would be the first person to say that. But I think if we're taking a step back and we're trying to take the emotions out of it, there are logical things that tell you that last year was more of an aberration. If you just look at the entirety of his career, and most recently over the last 3 years, this was the one that jumps out at you as an anomaly. And when you have logical reasons that explain such a step backward, then I think there are also logical reasons to say, okay, well, he's going to bounce back. And last year, he fractured his jaw, he lost a bunch of weight, he was playing at a weight that he wasn't at for a number of years. The last time he played around 170 pounds, Dave, he was a freshman in high school at Brentwood Academy in the Nashville, Tennessee area. So he was playing against these grown men in the NBA, physical style, and he was playing at like 175 pounds. It's just not going to work because he was on an all liquid diet because he couldn't work out the way that he usually does during the season. And those 4 months that he was recovering from a fractured jaw, like the things that he usually does in preparation for games and the things that he usually does on off days, he couldn't do. He wasn't allowed to do. Um, so I think the fractured jaw obviously derailed his season. That was the big one. But beyond that, he dealt with a big time loss in his family. His grandmother passed away. It was his last remaining um, grandparent, and she was one of the many people that Darius had with him when he was drafted in 2019. So his grandma had like a significant hand in raising Darius into the person that he is. So while he was dealing with all of the after effects of a fractured jaw and losing his joy of basketball because he just wasn't playing to his standards and because he was dealing with so many different things off the floor, like he was leaving the team on off days to go grieve with his family, to go support his family. And I don't think he was ever able to fully grieve the loss of such a key family member. So all of those things, we talk about this all the time, Dave. These are human beings that we cover here. They all have stories. They all have emotions. They're not robots. And having $200 million in a contract doesn't make it so that they can just overcome everything because they want to. Darius didn't want to have the season that he did last year. It's just things got in the way, I think, of him having the kind of season that he wanted to have. And if you watch him in the first couple of preseason games, and if you just hang around him at training camp, his joy is back. He is playful. He is laughing. He is smiling. He's doing all those magnetic things that he did early on in his career when he was playing at an all-star level. And so many of the players have talked about how they need that version of Darius Garland because it's infectious. And you just didn't have enough of that last year. He just, as he said it, he sort of lost his joy for basketball and he has it back. So now it's up to him to make sure that he keeps it and he finds a way, even through the tough times throughout the course of this season, to better handle it. And if that means he has to put a mask on and he has to fake a smile, then so be it. But a happy, playful, fun-loving Darius is good for Darius, and it's good for the Cavs. And we see signs of that guy being back.